Okay, everybody. Sorry I've been out for a little while, well, a year, but I couldn't help it. Things just wasn't going my way between moving and work. Well, I'm going to attempt to show a viewer, Laura, how to tell, or any viewer for that matter, how to tell when your valves need adjusting. Okay? I've got a Briggs & Stratton here engine. It's a 14 horsepower overhead valve, which is what the OHV stands for. And it's an IC engine, about a 92 model. Okay? Since the wiring's messed up on this lawnmower, I bought it as a junk. For the motor, actually. Well, how to tell when your valves might need adjusted. Or you got a bad ground, bad wire, or loose connection somewhere. Since I can't put a battery in this one, I've jump started it from my other lawnmower over there, with jump cable all the way over to here. And I got the hot cable on there, and I'm going to short it out with the ground. Listen to the noise it makes. If it makes a noise like that, that's a good sign that your valves either need adjusting, which are located behind this, or you got a bad ground. See how it turns over, the jerks, kind of kicks back? That's a sign that your valves need adjusting. Or a bad ground, weak starter, bad battery. But I'm going to go with, since I've done it with other batteries and stuff, and that's a brand new 300 amp battery, more than enough for this. I'm going to show you how to adjust valves. And my batteries are already getting weak on me. What you do is you take these 3/8 or 10 millimeter bolts out here, there's 4 of them, 2 under here and 2 at the top. Okay, I took them bolts out there, as you can see. Behind it is also your valve cover gasket, so you want to be careful not to destroy that. They're not very $2 or $3, less than 5, or you can fix it with silicone. But if you look, this top valve here, real tight, and it's got, I'm bringing it in here, that valve locker nut that holds the rocker arm, and right in the middle it's got a little lock with a star wrench. You have to have a wrench to loosen that up, but first you got to loosen that up with a star wrench, that little star in there. But it's fairly snug. But if you look at the bottom one, see how it is, how loose it is. That right there is our problem, why the motor won't turn over. See, when I took it off, it's broke there. Okay, and there's the piece, there's your valve cap, and there's that piece where it's broke with a lock in it. Before I can fix this, I gotta get some parts or it'll just work back loose. Well, I've got the parts to fix that valve, to make that movie Laura wanted how to adjust the valve. Well, overhead valve is basically what you got. You got your head bolt, your head gasket goes here, you got your valley here where your push rods go, and that has oil in it. You got a gasket here that stops the oil from getting in the combustion chamber. A lot of times, if there's no bolt really between these, so if there, and there's nothing to put pressure on that, like here. So a lot of times when they don't blow, anyway, here's your head gasket. Right in there is where they'll blow. And when they blow, it causes loss in compression, and it also lets combustion oil get into your cylinder and burn oil, and it'll smoke just like the rings are bad. It'll use oil, smoke real bad. Worse it's blowed, more it'll smoke. Anyway, I'll take this off here. This is 3/8 bolts. You gotta be careful when you tighten them up not to strip them. And there's what you have down in there.
Well, I know that rocker arm ain't supposed to be sitting like that.
That's called the push rod ain't there.
Oh.
Your push rod go up through here, like so. Then your rocker arm, they push against this, and that pushes your valve open. But a little hard to do with hand. And these here are the keepers and all. You got your valve here, and I know you probably can't see it, but down in there, there's a valve guide down inside that spring. A lot of times that valve guide wants to come up. When it does, it's supposed to be pressed in there and stay in there. When it works its way up, it won't let your rockers go down as far, and it won't let your motor run. One cylinder, it'll shut the motor off. Two cylinder, it'll stop that one piston is back out on from running. Well, it'll run off the other one. Well, depending on how old your motor is, who makes it, and what type of make and model it is, depending on what kind it's got. These come off of Briggs. Here's the one that was broke off the lawnmower down there that I'll be demonstrating on. It's supposed to have one just like it's on this older model. Got the star in there. You tighten this down with like a 3/8 to 10mm wrench on that right there, like that. Then you take a star wrench to lock it by turning it in like that. Okay. All you do is just set on the thing there. Screw in on that. And you've also got your little valve cap here that goes on top of your valve like that. There's supposed to be one on each one. And your rod's supposed to be sitting up there, and that tightens down. Then you use your thing here when you get set to tighten your keeper down where it goes. But don't over tighten it or it'll bust off like that, and that's garbage. And you use a feeler gauge. Different motor manufacturers, depending on the year it was made, twin cylinder, what model, make, etc., and all that is, calls for different valves set. But you gotta have a feeler gauge like this. Exhaust, I believe, is set on 5, most of them, and intake is set on 3. But you can set both of them on about 3 and it should run. Or split the difference on 4. I set that one on 3 for both intake and exhaust, and it's running. But all you do, let me loosen it up for you. I'll get the idea here. Is you take the wrench, imagine the push rod in there and that's sitting down like that. What you do is you tighten that down like so until you start just feeling just a tad bit of snugness there where it's kind of clamping down on it. You don't want to real tighten it down or you can't move it. You don't want it real free either. It's got to be just enough where you can feel it. Some resistance when pulling it out. Then when you get it set, well, you got to set your feeler gauge at whatever, which 0.03 there, or 0.003. You keep tightening that down until you feel that resistance. Then you take your star wrench, which is a T20, tighten that down, and that holds it and stops it from moving while the motor's running. Okay. And when you do it, whatever valve you're working on, it has to be out. Or in other words, the valve has to be up against the head like that. Behind these are the valve seats. You always want to make sure too, if you got the head off, that you can't take your thumb like that and turn either one of them. And they're seating good. If that valve seat comes out, it won't let it run. Lost compression. Small one is your intake, your large is your exhaust. And if I'm working on this one, which would be this one here, then I have to make sure that that valve is all the way in up against the block. You don't want it out when you loosen this up to do it. You may have to turn your motor to get the compression off of it. Okay. Well, I'm going to put it back together for now. And you got three different kinds of keepers. Got one which is kind of like the older style here. Got that star in it, which is on that motor and this block. Got kind of like an updated version of it, with basically the same thing. And it's got a star in there. There's another head for like twin cylinders. All it's got is like a little nut over here that you got to take a wrench. And in the middle of that nut, there's a little locker thing. I don't have that with me now, but I'm aiming to get it, but I wasn't able to. Now I'm going to show you on an actual motor how to set the valve. And Laura, this video is dedicated to you. First off, you got to make sure your motor's overhead valve. It'll have a cap on it like this, a head like that. It'll say OHV, OHV. That's provided from bait change the motor. A motor that ain't got overhead valve, you can't really adjust them. But these are like kind of like the valves on a car or any automobile. You use the 3/8 to take your head screws out. And I wouldn't recommend no air tools on these, because all that's aluminum and it can strip out real easy, especially when you're tightening them up. You got 4 bolts, and you also have to be very careful when you tighten them up. And as you can see, oil's going to run out there. Going to lose a little, and all over the bed of my trailer too. Oh well. As you can see, like I was telling you a while ago, the oil's going to come out around your push rods here. These are your push rods. And I don't have any to demonstrate. I thought I brought them with me. And there's going to be oil in there, so the best thing to do, if you can let it sit for a while, preferably front end uphill a little bit, where it'll run back the block. Not that you might as well get ready to have some oil a little bit on you. It's going to drip out. Well, I'll turn this motor over here by hand and see how they work. Exhaust on top, intake on the bottom. When I say you want it out, see how that one's going in? Now it's coming back out. Now that one's going in. So that one would be out. So if you was adjusting that one, you would need that one in and that one out. But I'm going to do the top and the bottom will be the same way. See how it's going in? That means the top one, it's got the compression off of it, or the pressure. You want to use a paper towel handy, wipe your hand. Like I said, you loosen it up. Well, you can tell a lot of it by how wiggly it is. Another thing, these push rods, well, maybe I can. The bottom one was the one that broke. And this one ain't gonna come loose. I'm not gonna force it, so I'm just gonna tighten it back down like it was. And I'll demonstrate on the bottom one. Like I said, don't force it. Loosen the keeper up. Just enough to take pressure off. But first, you gotta make sure the pressure is off the valve. Make sure top is going in. See how it's in? That means the pressure's off this one. I loosened that up. Now I can loosen this up. There's your push rod. See how that's wore there? That's where it's rubbing inside there. Pretty soon that'll wear that down where it gets thin and it'll break. It's just kind of like wearing it down with sandpaper or something, just sitting there sanding. So what? If you can catch it where it ain't too bad, well, that ain't too bad. You can just take your rod out, flip it over. Make sure though it's making contact in there. See how it's pushing it back out on me? Now it's back in. Like I said, all this stuff is just screw on there. Make sure your valve cap is on there. And it got to go in that hole there. That goes up against that. I want to rotate it around again and make sure the pressure's off of it, which it should be. See how it's pushing it back out? Now, I've got it in. I want to adjust distances when it's out. 0.003. Like I said, if it's real loose like that, the pair doesn't, you know which one's off. You just make sure you don't knock your valve cap off. Stick it in there, like so. Make sure that's in the spot. Tighten it up till you feel just enough resistance on it. Like that. You put the feeler gauge between the valve cap and the arm. Like so. And you tighten it up. You don't want it where you can't move it. You want to feel a little resistant. You just got to know how to feel for it. Because I can't really show you, except tell you. A little pressure behind it. That might be about right there. Then you tighten it back down. Don't over tighten it or pop it like that other one was I showed you. Then you just spin it around. Make sure it's going in and out. Okay. Now it's going in, so now we can do the top one if it was loose. But it's tight in there, so I'm not going to fool with it. The motor is running, so I'm just going to leave it the way it was. Tighten it back a little bit. Okay. And when you take the valve cover off, be careful, because your gasket's here. This is your valve cover gasket. Sometimes if it goes leaking, they only cost about $3 to $5 new. You can put a little silicone around it, black silicone, and a lot of times that will stop it from leaking. And you always want to make sure your oil dip sticks in there too when you turn the motor up or around or slice the oil out. And you set both valves the same way I set that one. And if it's a twin cylinder, you do it the same way, one side at a time. You do this side the same way I did that, then you go over and do this side the same way I did that. And it's the same way on all the other models, makes the lawnmowers. But, like I said, depending on what year it is, 99, 98, 93, etc. Depending on if it's a V-twin or a one-cylinder, vertical, horizontal, who made it, Briggs, Tecumseh, Kohler. You got all them variables as to what your valves fit on. So it all depends on what year and who made it, what model it is. Kohler Curves, Kohler Command, Intech for Briggs, etc. So you have to find out what the particular valve setting is for your motor, for your intake and exhaust. Then when you get done, you put it all back together at your boat. may have to charge that battery before I can actually finish. Then you tighten it up here. Put your bolts on, tighten. Don't not over tighten though, that's aluminum. And don't use no air tools. It'll strip out real easy. You kind of snug them up, then a little bit of a turn. And that's how you set the valve. You can set both of these on 3 and it should run. Well, I got the motor back together and the valves all adjusted. Your cap comes off depending on what kind of make and model and motor you got. And I've got it all together. You always need to put your starter cover over there, kind of protect the old fingers and everything. But now we're going to try to start it up again and make sure it's going to run. Already had it adjusted once and running. Well, if you have any questions, like I said, this video is dedicated to Laura. She wrote me, asked me how to adjust the valves on her motor and everything. It was running wild and died. And hard to start sometimes, I think. But anyway, this video is dedicated to her and Laura, or anybody else for that matter. If you have any questions, feel free to write me and ask. Thanks. Thanks for watching. Bye.